We're streaming live. We got a super exciting cash refresh tournament going on tonight. We got Tyrell Corp versus 0 Hour, some of the greats. I believe they're both a 3-1 record, and I've heard that they're on some pretty janky stuff. So you should definitely be excited about that. Let's switch over to the game here. Bombs away, y'all. We doing this. This is Graham, aka Pure Flight. I am your host and commentator. So sorry, but you stuck with me, kids. We've got a very cool matchup here between Builder of Nations, which thanks to stuff like priority construction and mass commercialization actually has some legs now, against our man Steve Cambridge, who gives us a little bit of pretty funky recursion for the criminals. Now, first thing I'm going to note is that Steve has independent thinking to start off with, which is, you know, interesting. That means that he is on Data and Destiny as his big box, and he's probably taken it for the sole purpose of getting Employee Strike, because that's obviously the strongest universally applicable runner card that's in that box. So Steve starts off his first turn making a run through what he doesn't know is a wormhole. Tyrell does not want to pay that gross 9 credit cost. Looks like he's going to rush out with a hostile takeover. Going to get 1 point, one point on the board, and a bad publicity, but puts him up to 14 credits. Steve thankfully has a tapworm in hand, so he's got a nice counter to Tyrell having money. The answer, of course, is to play tapworm. Exploiting the fact that we're not resing wormhole here, sees a boom and trashes it. Decides to run R&D again. Probably will just run 3 times this turn, and then probably we'll finish off with the tapworm. Let's make sure that the stream is coming in pretty nice. Looks like the volume is fine, so things are healthy. Look at that. I got all these graphics and neat things going on. How cool is that? Gonna triple advance that ice, kind of telegraphing maybe that it is some kind of space ice. Wormhole being the best. 0 Hour, having been around the block a couple times, wouldn't be surprised if he could guess that that is a wormhole. Draws up twice. Sees an On the Lam and another bank job. Those bank jobs probably not going to do him a ton of work, so he throws down the Damara. And Tyrell's going to think about purging here, but decides not to. Instead, ices up HQ, advances it, and as tempting as it might be, he should not play the mass commercialization, because that's going to give, if he wants to play around the tapworm at least, he's going to do it anyway. So his mass commercialization doubles as a hedge fund in value today. Steve draws, picks up the deuces wild, exposes an archer, and decides not to run that server because that would be silly. But he does get the free Aumakua counter out of the deal. Which, sidebar, anyone else call it Aumakua? To me that sounds the most, I don't know, Hawaiian, which I think is supposed to be the theme of the cycle with Maui and Los. But it could be wrong. I might be a little bit culturally insensitive there. Someone can correct me. That's totally fine. Tyrell draws a very spicy government takeover. Throws down a Wampoa because he do not want that no more. But unfortunately gets punished with the bank job that I just said was not going to be worthwhile. Just in case, he's going to res that Wampoa because he really needs to get that takeover on the bottom of R&D. And 0 Hour probably is going to take the bank job money first, but could decide to go in again and trash the Wampoa. He leaves the bank job at 1 credit. Yeah, no, you can. Yeah, that's right. So he's leaving the bank job at 1 credit because of the independent thinking. He's going to use it to draw Oh no, he wants to use it to host the On the Lam. How interesting. So yes, he does trash the Wampoa Reclamation, which is correct because you really, it's such a strong hand filterer that you really can't afford to leave that around. Now this deck appears to be appears to have the Government Takeover Red Planet Couriers combo, where you would biotic in one turn when you have biotic, Government Takeover, and Red Planet Couriers in hand, and 9 advancement counters on the table. You would combo all that together to score out your Government Takeover. Looks like Tyrell's not feeling that confident about that strategy, seeing as he did bury the Government Takeover. So 0 Hour is going to try to provoke a... oh no, he's getting up a couple virus counters on the Awamakua so that he is safe from the Archer that he's exposed earlier with the Deuces Wild. And I was going to access a card from hand, 1 and 5 to get the agenda, 1 and 5 to trash the boom. Sees a shipment from Kaguya, which still lets him walk away with an Awamakua counter. Yeah, there's that Red Planet Couriers that I was talking about. So, again, we might not see that come into play this game. And Tyrell trashes the boom as he's apparently not very confident in his ability to land a kill. He's also, at some point, he over-advanced the Wormhole, which I am surprised by. But, you know what? Sometimes things happen. And I'm sure that there's a reason for it. He might just, maybe he just wanted to get the Red Planet Courier counters. I don't know. 0 Hour is able to draw into a special order with Deuces Wild, and then uses that special order to order, especially his decoder in Abigail. So now he's pretty much all set up, with the exception of his Awamakua losing its charges. Tyrell responds by using a shipment from Kaguya to get up to 5 counters on the Wormhole. So he's either trying to bluff some kind of Orion, which is possible, or he is going to use this for Trick of Light counters. That's the only other thing I can think of. He does have 9 counters on the table. So that's cool. Let's see if he reses the Wormhole here. He does. Which is a cool 7 to break with Abigail. Dang, son. Oh. Trashes the Abigail instead. Maybe hoping to get that back with Steve? I'm not sure. He probably runs 3 Abigail to deal with nasty ice like Wormhole, or more commonly probably Fairchild 3 or DNA Tracker. But again, I'm not familiar with these guys' lists. So, let's see. If he makes a Steve run, he's probably going to try to get back an Abigail or a Lustig. Or possibly a... Well, I mean, he's got some good stuff down here. Basically, everything but the Deuces Wild is going to be pretty useful to him. So, anyway... so far, we have seen the Builder of Nations do a couple of damage, some value points of meat damage here, but I haven't seen it do anything incredible, with the exception of maybe ditching that Lustig from the damage. Actually, hitting the Lustig is probably a bigger deal than I gave it credit for, because of how effective Lustig is at breaking Archer. Breaks Archer for 6. That's, aside from like Fairy, probably the best killer for dealing with Archer specifically, because Archer's exactly 6 strength, which is what Lustig pumps itself to. I'm surprised that we haven't seen any priority constructions yet with all the space ice that Tyrell is running here. And right now I'm not sure what Tyrell's game plan is, because he has like no money. So, you know, what is it going to do there? Tyrell gets punished for creating the remote with an extra click because of the bank job. And this time 0 Hour is going to take all the credits from it, I thought he might leave it out for independent thinking, but maybe independent thinking is just there as a pinch draw thing if you're really digging for something. Because, of course, independent thinking is not super, super useful, is it? Generally speaking. You don't want to tear apart your board. Unless you're like Apex or Atom. Sometimes you want to get rid of those directives. 0 Hour throws up a... What is that? He asked for a Dean Lister or an Abigail, and got the Dean Lister because Abigail is, generally speaking, the better choice here. All right, Tyrell should be doing better if he had any kind of money. If he had been able to hold on to some of these shipment from Kaguyas, he could have, thrown down the Colossus, advanced the asteroid belt, and the Colossus ones. Clicks to draw a card, sees an asteroid belt, decides to put on archives, and is left with kind of a hard decision here of what to do. Whatever he pitches is going to be very telling. I think out of all these, he probably ditches the Red Planet Couriers. No, he ditches the Colossus. So he's holding on to the Red Planet Couriers very specifically. Maybe his plan is to over-advance an Atlas, and then pull up the government takeover exactly when he needs to pull off the combo. So that means he's probably going to hold on to Red Planet Couriers, probably hold on to Biotic Labor, although if he could use the Biotic Labor to score out the Atlas. Makawa is doing turtle stuff here, and with the ferry on the table, Steve is pretty comfortably running into HQ. He'll obviously use the ferry here, and he'll try to get it back with Steve's ability. I wouldn't be surprised if Steve says, give me ferry or give me Lustig here. Which, if that was the choice, then ferry should remove the Lustig from the game, I think. Although he could just keep getting this ferry back, which is breaking his archer quite efficiently. Yeah, so I don't know. That's what I would do. I would force him to keep getting back the ferry every time he wants to run, as opposed to just giving him the permanent breaker in Lustig. So let's see what they choose. Gets Bank Job back and removes Lustig. Really wants to stay on top of the money, and steals the Project Atlas from HQ, which is of course the bigger deal there, because that Atlas was going to be quite helpful, I think. Meanwhile, Tyrell is left with no money, no points, and a bunch of combo pieces that are not very helpful, with the exception of Hunter Seeker. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays Hunter Seeker and then either clicks for a credit or follows up with preemptive action. He could Hunter Seeker probably the Aomakua. Yeah, that's a very strong AI breaker. And then let's see what he gets back. Mass Comm, obviously. Wouldn't be surprised if he saw the Kaguyas, and brings back an unseen card. If you're watching this after the fact, you can obviously rewind and tell past me what that card was. I'm going to say it was something good? Sure, why not? Sees the Aeneas Informant. Yeah, he's not going to use the independent thinking. The idea is kind of cute to leave the credit on Bank Job and then trash it with independent thinking. But that is a pretty big deck building tell, because it says that he's on Data and Destiny. And I said he did it for the Employee Strike, but we can see in his hand that he did not take it for the Employee Strike. He's on Apocalypse. And that's why he's okay pitching all of these breakers, because he's got multiples of all of them. And at some point here, we're going to see him use this inside job to an effect, I would assume, and just totally wipe Tyrell's board. And Tyrell's going to have a lot of trouble recuperating from that because his board state relies on having all of this advanced ice. So that's that. Assuming that Steve, assuming that 0 Hour pulls that off, this is going to be gross. This is going to be a really, really gross game here. Tyrell being so behind on money means that Tyrell can't res any of this large space ice that he's got. I'm surprised at how much we've seen. A wormhole and 2 asteroid belts. I don't think they're necessarily bad ice, but I suppose I'm surprised by the ratio of priority constructions to space ice, because I would think that you would want priority constructions with said space ice, and we just haven't seen any yet. Brian's also making sure to stay on top credit-wise because he might know Tyrell Corp's deck, and he therefore might know that he's on a kill package. Tyrell here has a pretty terrible hand. I mean, he can use the best defense to trash the Aeneas informant, but that doesn't do him very much. We see Cyberdeck's Virus Suite, which he might overdraw and just ditch in archives. And that's going to serve as a hard counter to Amakua. Oh, he installs it in archives. That's fine, because then he can also fire it whenever he wants. But 0 Hour is just going to go ahead and get rid of it. Because, I mean, what else would you be installing on archives, right? So he'll probably access the Cyberdecks first. Oh, actually, it doesn't matter. He'll trash it. Then I was thinking he'll access the cards from archives, but they'll get purged immediately again. So that don't matter none. But unfortunately for Tyrell, 0 Hour is definitely staying on top of the money game. Rough stuff. Tyrell just does not have the money to create some kind of pressure here. You know, without money he can't score, which he hasn't seen hardly any agendas anyway. He can't threaten tags, and he can't even res his ice to defend his servers because he's spending so much time just drawing and clicking for credits and just trying to get back some tempo here, which is really hurting him. So meanwhile, Steve's going to go in with a sneak door. I mean, you'd love to be able to keep him out, but you don't have any agendas in hand. You've just got the one boom, so you don't res here. You are giving Steve back his ability, so we'll see what Steve chooses. I'm guessing probably a couple breakers. Maybe Fairy and Aomakua. He seems to like the bank job a lot, so he might take that back. Dean Lister's one of them, looks like. And what else have we got? Gives him back the Deuce is Wild. Yeah, so that was just kind of a value town thing. Let's see here. It was a ruse. A ruse. D-reses the Archer. That's obviously a big deal. So we're not exactly loving that from Tyrell's perspective. But now his mass communications are starting to give him a lot here. With 10 credits. But he pumps the hard-hitting news, and he's going to have to put every single one of his credits into this. And I don't know. He might be left with 1, actually. Oh, no, he already paid for it, so he'll be left over with several. Strength 12, though. Oh, because On the Lamb's on the table, so he's forcing him to get rid of the On the Lamb. That's what just happened. On the Lamb avoids the 3 tags then. He's going to use that Deuces Wild that he quite sneakily got back from his Steve run. So he Steved back a Deuces Wild, then used it to remove a tag, reveal an ice, and make a run. Looks like. Which he exposes the Archives ice. So he knows that's an asteroid belt now. Goes in to make another Steve run, and he's going to try to get back that Deuces Wild and possibly be on the lam. Yeah. Gave him 2 deuces. A pair of deuces, if you will. So he gets one of those back. Making another run on HQ here. Probably smelling blood. Probably thinking that there's an agenda in his hand. And, you know, making all the easy runs that he can make right now. Torrell comments that he forgot about the meat damage from the first run here. So, that's a hard thing. You know, I've played Builder Nations before, and it's something that you always forget. Absolutely. One of those IDs where you're just like, oh, dang it, I forgot about that. Yeah, he's hunting for it. He's hunting. I mean, he can get in for free, right? Because he's got the bad publicity. And in the meantime, he's just going to quick get a bunch of Aomakua counters. Tyrell could purge here. He's still drawing into basically nothing helpful. You know, he could... I think he advances up an asteroid belt here, like the one on Archives, or possibly the one... no, he's going to draw into a Glen Station. This is the 4-for-2 that lets you host a card on it, basically removing it from play and then getting it back on demand. I have only ever seen this used in conjunction with Government Takeover, because that's the only thing where you might want it at a specific time, but you don't want the runner to access it. Like basically anything else, you don't really care if the runner accesses it. Or you just try to score it out. So meanwhile, he follows my advice, advances the asteroid belt on Archives, so that he could actually res it. And I think that's probably right. You want to be able to defend Archives. Well, actually, I was going to say you have to defend Archives so that he can't farm turtle counters. But he does have the Cyberdex Virus Suite in there, so actually he's mostly just doing that to keep out the Sneak Door beta. First click, we're going to see a Deuces Wild for cards and money. He's going to make a run on HQ. Loses a Tapworm to Builder of Nations damage. And then he's going to Steve back a build script and get rid of a Deuces Wild. Funny thing about Cache Refresh is that you actually see the cantrips in play a little bit. You actually see build script. Process automation is pretty trash. It's a really mediocre economy card, but build script at least gives you a little bit more acceleration in terms of card draw than you might get otherwise. So that's cool. Tyrell now decides to purge virus counters. Also of note, I didn't say it last turn, but he did ditch the Glen Station into Archives here. So he's going to use a Sneak Door on Archives. Tyrell is going to spend 3 to res the asteroid belt because he's now purged. And that's going to lock him out. So we see asteroid belt doing a little bit of work. It took 2 clicks and 5 credits to get asteroid belt up to resable range. But now that we're here, it's doing work. And adding insult to injury, Tyrell pings an inside job with the Builder of Nations damage. So, guys being sportsmanlike, reminding each other of their triggers. It's just real swell, real great. All right, what we got here? We got a graft. Man, Tyrell, you have like every possible value of agenda in here. You got a 2-1, a 3-for-2, a 5-for-3, a 4-for-2, and a 9-for-6. Good lord. Tyrell, I think, is just playing the patient game and kind of playing to his outs here. He very methodically locked down the turtle counters. He's locked down archives with the expensive asteroid belt. We saw 0 Hour on Damara instead of Paperclip, probably because he's spending influence on Apocalypse. So, yeah, he's got 2 apocalypses. I don't know what the plural of that is. So, yeah, it doesn't run Paperclip, therefore runs Damara, which means that this asteroid belt is expensivo. It's an expensivo Desposito is what we got here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to break. Speaking of Damara, we did see Rosetta pull out the Damara, getting rid of the sneak door that's now been turned off. So Zero can threaten HQ again by getting through the ice wall. Because Tyrell has no agendas in his score area, he decided to, and not a lot of money, he decided to trash the unresed archer and replace it with a Hordem, which he then starts throwing some more advancement counters on. So his ability is going to trigger off of all of his ice, and assuming we still see some mass communications this game, those are going to really start raking in the dollars. Although he only has 1 left in his deck, so we might not see more than 1 unless we find another preemptive action here. Tyrell also has so many advancement counters on here that he's probably not going to settle for Red Planet Couriers on Graft. I think he's going to go all in on scoring out this government takeover, which is on the bottom of his deck, so I don't really know how he gets it. But I'm also kind of baffled by this game and this strategy. So looks like we're having some internet issues. That's not good. That was weird. Sorry if the stream got interrupted here. That was certainly very strange. Well, let's hope I'm still streaming, because that would be a shame if I wasn't. Yeah. Let's take a look-see here. Alright, well, looks like it. Looks like we're cool. Yeah, Jinteki.net was supposed to be down for maintenance a little bit earlier. So hopefully the maintenance was achieved and things are good. Looks like we're having... Hey! There he is. Uh-oh. Looks like I might be disconnecting now. I don't like the look of that. No! Come back. This is looking rough, team. This is looking real rough. I'm reconnected. No! I'm still not connected. Dang it. Let's check over at jtechie.net chat to see what's going on here. Yeah, it looks like Janet crashed. Because I see 1, 2, 3, 4 other people who got crashed. 5. Yeah, I see 5 other games that got crashed. Uh-oh. 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 Well, let's try refreshing. See what happens. And reload. And, see what happens. Oh, man. Yeah! Boom. And we're going to make some fonts bigger so it's a little bit easier for you, the viewer, to see what's going on. Sorry for the technical problems in the middle of that. But here we are. And now we have a cool new background. So you're welcome for that. Shout out to username Confis. Confas? I don't know how you say your UN. But yeah, he's the one who designed the video mode script for JNet, which is useful when streaming games, like what I'm doing right now. It makes the script bigger. It makes the font for credits and agenda points bigger for each player. And lets you change the background quite easily. So, all right, we're seeing a first click inside job. He's got 2 disposable breakers and a delister. He's already installed his ASOPs, which I find interesting because otherwise I would think right now he's going for an apocalypse. But it would appear to not be the case. So, anyway, Tyrell decides not to res this Whoredom. So, and the secret has been revealed. The Builder of Nations trigger happened when passing the unresed Whoredom. This has been errated so that it fires basically anytime you are near, around, or in the vicinity of an advanced ice. So then that showed off the apocalypse. What? Apoc Steve! So anyway, he Inside Jobs HQ steals the Project Atlas. Oh, but the Steve trigger happens, and he gets the independent thinking back from hand. That should have been the tell from the beginning, because what he can do is turn all of his face-down cards into draw with independent thinking. He probably should not have installed this ASOPs, because ASOPs is going to get face-down immediately, and then cannot sell off all the stuff that he's supposed to sell off. So second click he's running on R&D uses the the Abigail to trash itself and bypass the wormhole. Is going to do the same thing with Damar right now. Oh my gosh, Tyrell, I feel like, you know, rezzing some of this stuff to keep him out might be like, why didn't you res the Hordem? He should have res the Hordem there. I can't believe he didn't. Maybe he thought he was safe because he had binned the Apocalypse? But then he plays the other Apocalypse. Oh, he had to. Whoa. The crowd goes wild. And conveniently, 0 Hour does find the Glen Station and Archive, steals the Atlas out of HQ, and Tyrell is in a real bad place. I don't think Tyrell is going to be able to come back from this. No! Oh, and he top decks the mass commercialization. The irony. The sweet, sweet irony of drawing the mass commercialization after 6 different advanced ice just gets trashed. Oh my god, that's so terrible. I mean, he's got to put the what's it called, the Colossus over HQ. He might actually bend this masscom. Like, it's not going to do you much. He gets rid of the boom. That's probably correct. Independent thinking. Value City Furniture. That was so good. Ironically, Steve draws into 2 copies of Build Script while there are only 3 cards left in his deck, so that's pretty great. And installs a pair of Aeneas Informants. Tyrell, I am very surprised that you do not run Priority Construction in this deck. Maybe it's a slots thing, but that Priority Construction does so much work for all the space size. Like, this is the 3rd asteroid belt we've seen. I've never seen a deck run 3 asteroid belts. But hey, cash refresh, am I right? You don't have other options. You know, he obviously took Order and Chaos as his big box, so yeah, you play the cards you're dealt, you know what I'm saying? You got Asteroid Belt, so you're gonna play Asteroid Belt. Man, after getting card after card that was just really not helpful in any given situation, then he has just kind of bottomed out here. He sees his 2nd hedge fund of the game with 6 cards left in his deck, which is not super swell. And just starts, you know, playing to his outs. You double advance an Asteroid Belt, and you know, quite frankly, he's probably going to try to get 9 advancement counters on this ice. I mean, he's got 6 turns left to play, right? So you just advance the bazookas out of these, and then you can fast advance out your government takeover. But even then, like, his other biotics already in the bin, so I don't know how he's going to be able to score out the graft, even if he gets the government takeover. Unless he runs another preemptive action, then he could get back. This is what I'm talking about. Then he could get back enough pieces to buy him enough time. He could get back a biotic labor, and then he needs to score out this last Atlas after he's already scored out the government takeover. So, a tall order, to say the least. Yeah, so he's going to play Hedge Fund and then advance each of his ice once more. Advances the Colossus, that's better. 0 Hour is put down a Tapeworm, and Tyrell does not have enough turns left in the game to even think about purging that. So, he needs 1 more advancement counter on his ice. Ooh, Lustig. I mean, he reses the Colossus here. Lustig can... Its strength? 9. So Lustig is gonna pump twice for 6, 5 with a bad pub, and then break 2 subroutines. So he has to spend 8. Oh no, he's got a fairy. I didn't even see that. The unfortunate thing here is that he has a 60% chance to win from every excess. Man, that apocalypse it's just game ending, isn't it? Holy cow. I know they're figuring out the Steve thing, but man, I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, what is he going to access? Yeah, drum roll is right, Ty. Holy cow. I just sound like a weird cat with bronchitis. I'm not going to make that sound effect anymore. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? Oh my gosh. Brian, stop it. Like, just pick a card. You know that he's got agendas in here. Like, but, you know, you got to play your best game, so whatever. Might think about getting back the fairy. I mean, he kind of really needs that Damara. He runs two of each breaker. 2 Damara. So he gives him back the Damara. Hits the Red Planet Couriers. Holy cow. Holy cow. Tyrell maybe has a chance here. Anson Rose fashionably late. Anson Rose is not going to be putting advancement counters on much of anything this game, I'm afraid. So, next turn, if 0 Hour doesn't win, yeah, okay, so Tyrell's going to be able to score out the government takeover here, which is pretty freaking crazy, if you ask me. I mean, you got to do it, but you only have 2 turns left. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why do you need 10 advancements on stuff? You totally fast advance. Oh, if he fast advance out the government takeover, then he's only left with agendas in his hand? Is that what he's playing around? No, he would have had Anson Rose. Like, why did he not just score there? Is he forfeiting the match? What am I missing? The Hunter Seeker's not doing anyone any good. Now he puts down the government takeover. Oh, he didn't have enough money. He didn't have enough money to score it out. That must have been what happened, right? Yeah, he must have been a credit shy, which means he can't res this. What's the last card in R&D? It's not an agenda, so guess where the agendas are. 0 Hour has a ton of money for no apparent reason, just clicked for a bunch of credits, I guess. Plus a little bit of help from Taproom. And 2 and 3 chance to win. Oh, but we gotta do the Steve thing. Man, the suspense, guys. The suspense. This is real rough. Real rough. Ooh. 2 emergency shutdowns. Oh, man. Woo. That was intense. Value APOC. I think it was a little bit more than just a value APOC. It was pretty much game winning. Is the last card a preemptive? The preemptive. That's what he needed. Oh man. Was there only one? Yeah, so Tyrell says that there was only the one preemptive. So, but he thought that maybe there was more. Probably by next week he'll add in a second one. So that way he can get back some key pieces. Most interesting. Yeah, so if you're not familiar, this priority construction I've been playing around, talking about the whole game, is the motion for advanceable ice, right? So it's a double operation that says install a piece of ice from HQ. It has to be in a remote server, then put 3 advancement counters on that ice. So obviously that's why it works so well with the space ice, because all those become free to res then, and you can make a really formidable scoring remote. I'm sure Tyrell's game plan this entire time was just to get out the government takeover. Like, he's only got agendas in there to just fill out. But I'm sure 9 times out of 10 he's just trying to score out the government takeover, which he's going to use as a fast advance combo, and therefore maybe doesn't really ever need the remote. So yeah, super interesting. Really impressed with some of Brian's plays there too. You know, he had a lot of cards that didn't necessarily do a whole lot, the Aeneas informants and things, but I didn't think those bank jobs were ever going to trigger, and sure enough they did. So that was pretty impressive. Let's just upgrade my graphics here. Yeah, Brian's been around the block a few times. He's not new to Netrunner, and I played him in a Store Champs about a year ago, and he was a really nice guy. So sounds like everybody else in the Netrunner community. Am I right? Yeah, I'm right. All right. So after the first game of this match, that's going to bring Tyrell up to, well, Tyrell's record becomes 3-2. 0 Hour goes up to 4-1, which gives him 12 prestige for the tournament. So it's going to be 4 rounds of Swiss before cutting to a what am I trying to say? Cutting to a top bracket, but instead of a double elimination bracket, each round for this tournament is going to be a best 2 of 3 matches. So it'll be like a tournament series, similar to, you know, sports, if you will. Something akin to baseball or perhaps basketball, if you're familiar. So, yeah, there you go. Well, looks like we're taking a water break. So at this time, if you're watching this in retrospective, you can go down to the show notes where I will have a little link that says Game 2. And you can click on that link and just fast forward up to Game 2. So we'll see you there. See you at that time. Go click on that thing. I don't have anything to show you. I only got this one graphic, man. I didn't know I was going to have to stall for 10 minutes. These guys had to take a potty break. Yeah, that's reasonable, though. I mean, we are humans. So. Yup. So, you guys see Blade Runner? I thought it was good. I dug it. thought it was kind of slow though. Did you guys see that new Reyna art today? To the Netrunner dorks. To the dorks. There. Yeah, anyway. Here's that cool Reyna art that got discovered on the Fantasy Flight website, I guess. I don't know how they find this. Maybe they're scraping. But anyway, it looks pretty sweet, right? She's kind of got a short spiky hair except for the signature foxtail bangs. Love that. She's rocking her console. Looks like it's on her chest this time instead of her backpack. So maybe got modded. Bodysuit is new. Vest is similar to the old one. Got a cool collar now. Really like the upgrade. I think she looks great. Giving some sassy side eye. Also, she's carrying a gun. So there's that. There's that, which is cool. Here, let me show you a picture of what I'm talking about. How do I do that? Boom, there it is. Yeah, way cool. If you're watching this in hindsight, pause it. And you can unpause it and look at this one. This is the old one. Old one, new one. Old one, new one. Yeah. So that's real neat, right? Anyway. Well, here. How about that tournament bracket again? Or that tournament graphic? Yeah. Do that for a while. Guess what, guys? We're back! Wow! We've switched sides, and what's this? Tyrell is on Apex. 0 Hour is on Cerebral Imaging. Man, may the APOC be of similar value. This is what 0 Hour says. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. This is going to be good. So Cerebral Imaging, obviously really strong right now in the standard. Basically off the backs of Violet level clearance and Ultraviolet clearance. Both really, really strong draw operations. And then assumedly he's also got a pair of Brian Stinsons in this deck, so we can play Ultraviolet for 1 click, and then obviously play either of them for free. Just getting huge amounts of value. So we're off to the races. And Tyrell is, 0 Hours installed a Cider Adaptive Barrier and played Hedge Fund and IPO, so he's got money. Apex throws down a Hunting Grounds face down. Those winning countered abilities probably won't come into play unless 0 Hour has something like IP blocks or toll booths. And throws down a Heartbeat right away. So if 0 Hour's on the Killer Penguins or Show of Brain kill combo, where he needs to get a flatline with the meat damage from Show of Force, then Heartbeat's going to stop that. Of course, that's pretty janky, so not confident on that. Apex taking a couple runs while he can do it uncontested on HQ. 0 Hour draws into a pair of elective upgrades, which is going to be problematic. Apex, unfortunately, doesn't have the best economy options in Standard, and has even fewer options when limited to only 1 deluxe box in Cash Refresh. So, peace in our time it is, which is just going to throw gasoline on the fire that is Cerebral Imaging. Zero says, thanks for the grip size. This is teamwork. That's freaking teamwork. Alright. 0 Hour just gonna draw. Violet level clearance. Looks like CI is doing CI things. If you're watching at home and you're like, hey, that seems strong and or maybe unfair, you probably would not be alone in that. But he's not the 0 Hour is not the one who printed all these gross clearances, so what can you do? Zero's gonna let Tyrell get in here. Sees the top card, doesn't like it. Draws up, gets another infiltration. See, this is the level of economy that Apex is left with, is infiltrations. Also, he's actually like using it to check what the ice is, so that he can figure out if Endless Hunger can break it. I'd be curious to see if this Apex is running the Conspiracy Breakers, because those tend to work pretty well with his ability, where he can stall them face down, sacrifice them to break a subroutine with Endless Hunger, or do one of his other abilities, and then install them when he needs them. However, that only works in Standard because you have Chopbot 3000, which lets you trash cards that are installed on demand, so then he can get back those breakers exactly when he needs to. And that came in Order on Chaos. Apex is limited to Data and Destiny cards, so fortunately doesn't get those. Apex is going to use a Spear Fishing to bypass the innermost piece of ice, which is unfortunate. Because in this case, Caduceus is going to get to fire its subroutines, which will give Zero probably 3 more credits here, and then he chooses not to boost the End the Run trace. So then Tyrell still gets in and still gets an access. Steals an elective upgrade. Ooh, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal for Tyrell, because his opportunities for being able to get into HQ consistently and make the necessary runs to steal these at random agendas are few and far between. Oh, now he just luck sacking into this. He steals an agenda off the top of R&D as well. and he sees the Click 3 archives run. Well, says Zero. Efficiency indeed, says Tyrell. Pulls off the apocalypse. Man, this is a thing of beauty. Now, Zero is far from out of this. He's going to use Restore to install a Caduceus. He likes the Caduceus because of the trace to end the run. It means that Endless Hunger, as a breaker, is not going to be able to actually break it because it is... Endless Hunger only breaks hard end the run subs, not trace to end the run. You know, after playing that Caduceus, he clicks to gain a credit and then Violet levels, which means that R&D is still unprotected. He's digging for ice. And a lot of CI decks still don't run a lot of ice because you have so much draw that you can classically find them. There it is. There it is. Zero was not finding any of his ice and decides to install a piece of ice on a remote, which I am surprised by. I maybe would have expected him to put the Rototurret on R&D because a single Agenda Steal could win Tyrell the game here. But instead he decides to go ahead and throw the Caduceus on a scoring remote here, which makes sense why he would want it on the innermost piece of that scoring remote. But treasures the Helheim servers, Apex does, on that R&D run. Accesses a second card, still doesn't like it. And he's left with basically no money after all that. So 0 Hour throws down that Rototurret into R&D. Rototurret being good because even though Endless Hunger can get through it, Rototurret is after he breaks the end of the run subroutine, then the leftover subroutine fires, trashes Endless Hunger, so he can only do it once. Here we go. So it's not necessarily a scoring remote, it is an austerity policy remote, which he'll then use to fast advance something like an efficiency committee. Or if he stays basically broke, then 0 Hour might actually keep it around an extra turn so he can score out the elective upgrade, which would be a huge tempo boost in 0 Hour's favor. We got an Alt-Art Crypsis up here. That's a rarity. I have never seen one of these cards in the flesh. So, look at that. That's crazy. Sell them. Sell them, he says, referring to the Shadow Net that got installed. We see Brian Stinson. No, it's an Ash on HQ, Brian Stinson on R&D. I can see why he puts Ash there. Ash being in the revised core set, of course. Brian Stinson, I'm surprised. Well, if I were Tyrell, I would assume both of these would be Brian Stinson. And he's hoping to get up to 6 credits here, and just doesn't make it. There you go. We have a Conspiracy Breaker sighting in the Black Orchestra. It's going to let him get through any gear check code gates that Zero might be running. We do see the Brian Stinson res, which is going to gain 9 credits from a hedge fund, and 13 credits from an IPO. So 2 clicks, 22 credits. Doesn't get much better than that. And like I said, because Tyrell is as poor as he is, he has left the austerity policy on the table. Probably correct. I would take that bet as well. I don't think he'll be able to trash it. Which means next turn he is going to be able to score out that elective upgrade. Going to be huge. Going to be absolutely huge. Tyrell actually already has the 2 Vitruvii in hand, so in theory he'll be able to score out then the next turn and then the next turn after, and then he'll just win the game. So Tyrell, even though he did land the earth-shattering apocalypse, wasn't able to make a whole lot of that because 0 Hour had the restore in hand to bring back a Caduceus. So now in this tournament, you're able to change your deck between games as long as you don't change up which big box you chose. So if these guys were aware of what decks they were bringing, then I wouldn't be surprised if 0 Hour specifically splashed for Caduceus for this week only. it, it's different than how normal tournaments work, but because in theory people have been really comfortable with how these what am I trying to say? People have been really comfortable sharing their deck information, and as a result it ends up being sort of a gentleman's scouting, where you just kind of assume that everyone has access to that information, and then you can make decisions accordingly. So I personally don't do a ton of sideboarding, but I'm also not like the greatest Netrunner player, so I'm not convinced that it does me a lot of good. Anyway, so now I told you that elective upgrade was going to be huge. Sure enough, with money for days, Zero's got no trouble, and he uses an elective upgrade counter to score out one of the Vitruvii. Tyrell's digging for answers, praying that Zero doesn't have the next Vitruvius yet, but he has drawn 2/3 of his deck already, and assuming there's 3 Vitruvii in his deck, chances are he has one more. Sure enough, he's got one more. No clot in this format means that's GG. Wow. That is some double APOC action. Those are some fun games. Oh, he was looking for inside jobs and spearfishing so that he could try to challenge that MCA. Apex draw is sad. Where's Reaver? Am I right? Well, it was as brief as it was unexciting. I don't know. I thought it was pretty fun. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I had a lot of fun commentating this. Hopefully you found my commentary to be not terrible. And I'm looking forward to seeing where these guys end up in the tournament. This has been a big boost for 0 Hour as he skyrockets from 3-1 to 5-1, and that's really going to help solidify his place in the tournament moving over. So again, great games, these guys. And shoot dang boy. I guess we'll see you next time on Streaming from Shiloh.